guys, Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today we are going to be making a Kenny K stamped card. I've been sent this new launch of photopolymer stamps from Kenny K, and you may recall a couple of months back now I did a card from one of the first launches of their photopolymer stamps. This is kind of a new direction for Kenny K. They normally, as you know, will be known for digi stamps, but they're now branching out into doing the photopolymer. So I've now been sent the latest collection, and I am going to be making a project from one of these sets for you. Now, these two ladies here are probably my favourites, but I am actually going to save these. I will be doing a project for you with these, but I'm going to save these for nearer Halloween. I think these two little girls will work really well for that one. And then we have the other two are these great sporty little kids, and I think they're really fun, and I think that I'm going to go for this football image here today. So I think that's going to be really a cool image to use, and this one's called Anime Soccer because obviously they're American. This is soccer in America, not football as it is here in the UK. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I've got here in front of me some coloured cardstock which I think will match in with my markers that I've picked to use on my image, so I think they'll go with that really well. And then I've got a piece of the Express It Copic marker paper which I'm going to use to stamp and colour my image onto. Okay, but with regard to all of this, details of the markers, the specific markers that I've used, the card, etc., then do click the link of the corresponding blog post that will be below this video, and that will take you to that blog post which will have all the details of the products used, details of the markers as I say, and also lots more photos than you'll see at the end of this video, so you'll get a lot more close-ups, etc. So it's definitely worth popping across to there. Okay, so let's get going with this card. Now, because of what I'm planning on doing with this card, I don't want to stamp him right down in the corner. I need to stamp him sort of central in this half of this piece of card. So I'm going to just stamp this part and this ball as well. So I want to try and keep those in the position that they're at, really. So what I want to do is peel off this part, so the top part, so that I can then put my, so that it leaves the ball and my character in position onto the backing paper there, so that then I know that they're how I like them when I saw them on there. And then I'm just going to grab my Fiskus stamp press here, just press down onto here, and then I can peel off the other piece of backing, and that's just made sure that this is all held in place and also that the correct edge is on the stamp side. Now, I've done no prepping or anything. You've seen me literally just take this out of the packet. So let's see how this stamps. Now, what we've got here is our Memento ink pad. This is what you need to use if you're going to colour using alcohol markers. So that could be your Copics, your Pro markers, your Spectrum Noirs, so anything like that. If they're alcohol based markers, you need to ink your stamp using your Tuxedo Black Memento ink pads, because it's the one of the very few that will not bleed when you put your marker on it, because otherwise what happens is the black will kind of blend into the marker that you've done. Okay, so now we're just going to pop that about there and stamp him down, and then just make sure that we're pressing down on all of the sections to make sure that we get a good lines all stamped out. There we go, and that come out good. Let's show you that. That's perfect. So there's no prepping on that. I mean, even look at the ball there where you've got the solid black. It's absolutely perfect, and that's quite unusual because quite often when you have a new stamp, unless you prep it, you get kind of like almost like puddling. Okay, so that's that stamped. Now what I want to do is take the football and just pop that into the middle. And I want to create my own backing paper over onto this side of my paper here. So I'm just going to ink it. You could ink it at this point, because I'm not using it for, I'm not colouring on it. I could just use a normal ink. It's not going to be a problem, but since this one's out, I'm just going to carry on. So then I'm just going to keep inking it up and just randomly popping down these footballs. Okay, so I'll come back to you in a minute when I've done a few more of these. Okay, so there is my backing paper. Now obviously I'm only using a portion of that, and it's getting a little bit close to my little chap there, but we'll be okay. So now what I want to do is colour him in. Okay, so as always I'm going to start with the skin. So because he's quite small, and also want to really show that you don't need to go complicated with the colouring to get a really good result, so we're going to just keep it nice and simple. Okay, so I've got just 3 colours. So we're going to start off with the pale colour, which is your E00, and we're just going to put a wash of colour down over his skin here. So then I'm going to take my E11. So we're just going to create a little shadow line here by his hair. So we're just laying this down. This is a slightly paler sort of shadow colour, and then we'll go in with our darker colour, which is our E04, like so. So now we're going to go back in with our E11 and just take that slightly further out, just to create a little bit more depth to our shadow. And just going up and down twice usually just adds enough of the colour into our picture. And then finally our E00 just to soften that out. So that's his skin done, so that's nice and simple. Okay, so now we're going to do his hair. So for that I have got 3 colours here. I've got E57, E55 and E53, so it's a very similar sort of process. We're just going to put a wash of the E53 down. It's not very much hair, so, and then I'm going to go in with my darkest colour, and then here where he's got his parting, add in our flicks, and then we're going to get our mid-tone, which is our E55, and again just add a little bit of flicking there. And then I'm just going to go back in with my E57. Okay, so now I just want to go back in and do his tongue here. So I'm just going to use E04 with my E00. There we go. And then we need to put some colour in his eyes. So I'm going to use this greens here. I've got YG17 and YG23. Okay, so now we need to start doing his clothing. So we're going to start with the cap, which we're going to do in our greens. So we've got the YG17, YG23 and YG01. So we're going to do the shadow areas on our cap first, and then we're going to take our middle shade and then our YG01, and then again we want to just go over those shading areas again just to build up that depth of colour. So then the next thing that's green is going to be his trousers, so I'm going to do his trousers now at the same time. So while we've got our greens out, so I'm going to take my YG17, there we go, and now we're going to take our middle tone, which is YG23, and again all we're doing now is just following what we've already putting in, but just taking it just a little bit further in towards our highlight area, like so. And then our YG01, which we'll fill in the whole of this now. So now we're going to do the trainers, and I'm going to be doing reds for these. So I'm going to start off with my grey. I've learnt recently that if you use the grey with the red to do your shading, it really gives a good... Okay, so now I'm going to take my darkest red, which is R59, and I'm just going to go over where we've done the grey. So I'm not particularly extending out on this, I'm literally just going over it. Okay, and then I've got R27. So that one I'm just going to go over what we've done and just take that forward a little. Okay, and then I'm going to take, I wanted it to go slightly more orangey, so I'm going with YR09. Now I want that to be quite a lot of the top, be mostly a red top, so then we're finishing with YR02, orangey tone rather than pinky tone. And now I just want to do his trainers, so get my grey here like so, and then we'll take the R27. So we'll just come out a little further, and then we need a little bit of darker colour just at the top here, so that's where his kind of his clothes are just overhanging that very slightly. And then we're going to go to this red again, the R27, and then our YR02 just on our highlight area. Like so, and then we need to do the foot at the back here. I've still got to do the white parts on here, and okay, so that's that one. And then we need to get our two greys that I've got here is there's C1 and C3, and I'm just going to start with the C1 to start with and just add a little bit of, in fact I think C1 is probably all we're going to need, just add a little bit of shading to the white to make it so that it is white but it has still shadow on it. I think we'll leave that alone, and then I'm just going to go around now with my C1, and I'm almost going over the top and then just a little bit further out with my C1, so it just blends that. Okay, and then the final thing I like to do is just go around then with my colourless blender and just right on the edge of the grey that we've just put in, just almost very messy because oh, I didn't go around with my C1 on my football, hold on. I just find it makes it a nice soft edge then by doing that, and you almost can't see it to start with because the colourless blender makes the paper go grey as well, but you don't have to be so fussy with it, you just want to go over that edge and it just softens that so that it almost really, you can't see where the paper finishes and the line starts, you know, it's just really no definition of definite line rather. There we go, and then as soon as that's dry you'll be surprised just what a difference that makes. Let's see if you can see. I think you're almost not going to catch it now in this light. I think what you'll need to do is when the when I put the photos up is just have a look then. And then I'm just doing what I've always do, is when you almost bleach that line out, because you go back over with paler colours, you almost bleach the stronger colours away. I then just go back in and just add, and in this case I'm just adding the thinnest line of the C3 just around him, just to give him that pop off the page, because otherwise you've almost bleached it too much. And you can just see it coming back to life when you put this on. But you say you might find that you really don't notice, you can't see this so good on the camera. You'll see it more when you look at the photos. So as I said earlier, if you click the link and go to the corresponding blog post, you'll find there's plenty of photos and information, sort of exactly what markers I've used, etc. Okay, I'm not going to do any more to that. I don't need to go back in with my C1 or anything, because it's just perfect as it is. So that is our lad coloured. I think that looks really cool. I like now how you can see now how the red has just softened down now that it's dried. In fact, all of the colours have just changed. When they dry, they really does make a big difference. Okay, so that's this. So that's him finished. So now let's get putting the card together. Okay, so I've cut this in half. So I've got one piece with my little lad on and one piece with my homemade backing paper. I've got the piece of red cardstock. I actually had two. These were American letter size, so I've cut them, the width is the same, but I've cut them to 6 inches here. So I've got two pieces of that, and then I've got a piece of green cardstock which is also American letter size, but it was just a piece that was left over that was a random size, but it's going to fit just perfectly. So these are all my elements. So now we need to bring in my die cutting machine, because we're going to do a bit of die cutting and we're going to make our own card base. So I've got my scissors here, I've got my magnetic platform, one acrylic plate, a piece of the red cardstock, and then I've got here my circle dies by Tattered Lace, and I've got the number 18, so it's the second one in. The largest is pretty much 6 inches, but I want it just slightly down from that. I'm going to do that cut size down, so unfortunately you're just not going to get 2 out of the one sheet. And then we're going to take my next acrylic plate, pop that on top and run that through our machine. Okay, so that's piece number 1, so beautiful circles. So we're going to do that again on our second piece of red cardstock. So there's our 2 pieces round, and we're going to use that as our card base, but I'll show you how in a minute. But let's do the rest of our die cutting first. So then we're going to use my homemade backing paper here. So what I want to do for that is I want to actually use 2 of my dies here from my set. So I'm using my number 17 and then number 13. Okay, so we put that down. Just going to work out exactly where we want it. So basically what I'm doing is I'm gutting this piece, because I actually am going to be matting and layering over the top of this homemade paper here, but I can actually make use of this centerpiece on the inside of my card. So I thought, well, if I gut it out like this, then I don't have to stamp it twice or waste it. I can just go straight ahead and have it how I need it. But what I need to do is just make sure that I've got a nice selection of the footballs on the piece that's showing here. That's the most important bit. Okay, so that looks good, and because of my magnetic platform I don't have to worry about taping it or anything. And then we'll just pop that through the machine. And you'll see exactly how this all comes together once we've cut it all, and obviously we start to put it together. Okay, so that's those two. So that's going to be our mat and layer. It's going to be covered up. We're not going to see this, and then we're going to use this somewhere else. So that's going to be kind of cool. Okay, so then we want our green piece of card here. And this is number 14 circle. So we just pop that through. So that's that one. Okay, so we're getting all our elements together, all our ducks in a row, as they say. Okay, and then lastly, I think with the die cutting, we just want to cut our image here. So cut side down would be helpful. Okay, so we're just positioning our die where I want it to be. So he's centered into our image, into our circle there. Then we're going to pop a lid on and put it through the machine. Okay, so that's him cut out. That look cool? Okay, so that's all our pieces cut. So there's just one more piece of stamping that I want to do now, which I couldn't do until I cut it out because it's on this little piece here. And on the stamp set we've got the word champion, and it's slightly curved, which I thought was kind of cool. Although of course you can curve it yourself. You can always bend a stamp when they're photopolymer, so it's not the end of the world, but it's already done, so that's kind of helpful. So now this is the bit that's kind of scary, isn't it, because you've done all this colouring and if you completely mess it up now. So I thought it would look kind of fun to have that just down this side here. So I'm just thinking about there, I think. So I want to press hard enough to make sure that it stamps all of it, but not so hard that it's kind of squishing the letters. Oh, phew, it came out. Okay. And I think what would be nice is to give that a second to dry and then actually colour that in with my green. I think that would be nice with the green. But while we're waiting, what we'll do is we'll put our card base together. Okay, so I've got my scoreboard here, and I'm going to take one of my pieces of red card in the circle, and I don't know why, but for some reason I want to turn it around, and then I'm going to score it at the 1/2 inch point. So you want to make sure that it's butting up against these two sides evenly, and then just follow the 1/2 inch line down and score that. Now you could do that at more than 1/2 inch if you preferred. I think 1/2 inch is going to be fine, and then just fold it back on itself. In fact, I want to go the other way because it's a very slightly it does have the right side actually with this with the way the die cut is. There's like a tiny little ridge, so I want to keep the right side on the inside because this is going to be the back of my card. And then all I'm going to do is take some of this thin red tape, and it's just coincidence it's red, it's just that it's going to be nice and strong. In fact, I want it slightly thicker than thin. It's still thin, but it's not as thin. And then I'm going to pop some across on that piece there. And the reason I want this is because it's incredibly strong tape, so it's going to make sure that my card is not going to come apart now. And then all I'm going to do is try not to stab my own finger. I'm going to make sure this is now the right way round, and then I'm going to line it up at all sides, and then just stick it down, and that has created a card. And as you can see, look, it does slightly rock, so you could decide whether you wanted that to do it. I quite like that because it's not going to fall over because of the way that we've got the top going, so I think that's not a problem. But if you wanted it to stay completely still, all you need to do is just take a small amount across the bottom here. You don't even need to take the front off, it's just the back. That will hold it steady, but I'm happy with it as it is. Now you can see why I gutted it, because this is going to be my matten layer for here, and then I'm going to put another piece over the top of that, and then I can put this on the inside, and we can put a little sentiment or something on there as well. Okay, so let's pop this one in first while we're here. So I'm just using a bit of tape, and then we're just going to pop that, making sure that these sides are all central, ignoring the top obviously because that one doesn't count. There we go. And then we need to just pop this together, so we're going to have this here, and then we've got our, this is the same size as what we gutted out, but we've got this layer that is going as a matten layer on here, so this piece is bigger than the whole. But before we do that, we're just going to do that last bit of colouring. So I'm just going to take two greens. I've got my YG17 and YG23 because I want this to be tonal. So I'm just going to bottom half of my letters in the darker colour. Like so, and then the YG23 as the middle. So I'm going to still go in with my very pale colour at the top, and then finally my YG01. There we go. That looked fun. So I think that looks really cool, just having that at the side. So again, just using my tape pen, and then making sure that it's nice and centred onto my, I've got an escaped dog hair there from little Daisy, so make sure that it's centred like so. There we go. And then we're going to pop this piece down next. Again, this one's going to be flat, so I'm just going to use my tape runner for that, making sure it's all stuck. And what we do want to make sure is that the top is where the top is. So the best way to do that is, although actually it's round, I don't know why it matters where the top is. Oh, when we put our picture on. I knew there was a reason. And then we're going to pop that down. And by opening it up, we know precisely where that top piece is. That's what I was trying to say. Now, what I was thinking was whether to do this 3D'd. Now, the risk of it being 3D'd is whether we could see where we've gutted it. But I don't think we will, because we won't see the foam or anything. So there's no reason that we would see the gutting either. So let's just pop that across. Now, I do like to be very generous with my foam tape. There's nothing I can't stand more than if something arrives that I've made and in the post and it's got squashed. So I'd rather be overly generous with the tape and know that it's not going to get squashed down, or even if it does, it's going to bounce straight back up again. There we go. So it's just a single layer of our foam tape. It's just a little bit of dimension, and again, this time I do need it open so I can make sure that he is the right way up. And then before I push it down, I'm going to close it just to make sure everything is how it should be. And look, you see, I can push that right in the middle and it's as firm as anything. And there we go. I just think that looks fabulous. I love the red and green together. I think that looks really cool. Hopefully that covers enough for football teams' colours. But I just think that looks really cool. I think it's nice to do something that's relatively simple, that really highlights the stamp, because the stamp doesn't need a lot going on. I love the fact that we could make our own background paper from the stamp, because we use that football and it matches in perfectly. And I love the fact that the round dies, it all kind of works together. So I hope you like it as much as I do. I'd love to hear your comments. As I say, do pop on over to the blog post to have a look at the photos and the information about the products, etc. Otherwise, I will see you again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.